I was hoping to have Jason Louv on my channel by now, but that does not mean we can't sing the praises of his wonderful book. I delayed getting it for a couple reasons. One I'm particularly glad about is the price. You know, his books are getting expensive, and yeah, $40 is the standard price of this. And also because the experience and the methods in regards to the occult are more of my interest. Oh, I have a lot of books on history. My ancient aliens and that sort of thing that I talk about is not necessarily that I agree with their theories, as they call them. Often not theories at all, but this kind of put things together quite nicely. The influence, the general ideas that went behind the methods, the basic layout of both John Dee and his scryers' experiences, I mean, the sort of things that went on, and what happened with other people. Now, Enochian Magick, I've talked about it as a system of initiations, or different systems of initiations, depending on how you look at it. I've talked about it as representing a mythology, which the Bible taps into. He's talked about how, he talks about this stuff, so let's just say, Jason Louv talks about this stuff. Oh, the Empire, I'll say the full title of the book, John Dee and the Empire of Angels, Enochian Magick and the Occult Roots of the Modern World. And, it goes really deep. Even if you don't have a in-depth knowledge of Enochian before reading this book, you're going to see how the whole thing not only opens up experiences in different categories, but you're going to see how the formats of pretty much every alternative spiritual thing that you're ever going to look at ties right back into John Dee. I mean, to some degree. And John Dee was influenced by the idea of becoming. The Gnostics and the Baptists, the Charismatics, that I guess weren't part of either of those. There was a possibility with Christianity, or at least the mythology that Christianity shares in, the structures that it shares in, that was sort of closed off to the public. Now, Protestant and Catholic, they went around. I mean, particularly Edward Talbot or Edward Kelly, whichever was his real name. His visions their vision connected to the founding of the British Empire. The existing mythologies that were present among the churches that they involved themselves in, they lined up and didn't line up. There was a combination of both going on. Dispensationalism seemed to be more of what they were into. You don't have to believe the whole Christian thing or take part in the Christian aspect of Enochian. It's like Eod, is with all. So which do you consider to be the universal spirit, right? It basically represents everything. there's... I'm rambling, so I'm just going to let this be a ramble, more or less. We are in a situation. John Dee's family had to fight their way to the position. It wasn't just, oh, you're privileged. And yeah, a lot of those people eventually fail. Some people live on a trust fund and really don't do much with it, but those who go to school or use their power and their influence, they can really build something great. And, you know, okay, you fight your way to become middle class, and you get that education, and you work and use that education. That's... John Dee had the biggest library of his time, which is an essential thing to look at. I guess with something else, I'll talk more about that. A theory of everything. Now, there were religions that talked about the representation of all truth. There wasn't really a Western one. Now, when I say Western, Islam under Muhammad ibn Abdullah never really claimed to be that. But Apollonia of Tiana, one of the four characters that went into the Jesus, Roger Bacon, Paracelsus, and Muhammad were kind of thought to be ones that would have had some influence into the John Dee and Edward Kelly. And you do see influence of Sufism. You see in his monad that, that Mercury, Sun, Moon, Aries sort of looking thing. They wanted to be able to connect to the world. And they looked, east, west, and in between. They got their own sort of language. There was ways to relate to the angels. There was ways to relate to what a holy temple would be. A mystical holy book. Formulas and sigils. Tools. Combining of science and art and philosophy and religion, which some people are going to kick some of that out. You have interesting little things being brought up about the experience of Crowley, the experience of John Dee and Edward Kelly, the stuff they did. Now, I think the spirits kind of looked at some of that and said, yes, these Christians, let's see what we can get them to do. And because they're trying to be all angelic magic and super self-righteous about this, let's see, So some things may have happened because of what they were looking at. Now, Enochian is right to left. If you look at the originals, Enochian is right to left. So don't fall for the Golden Dawn thing. The truncated pyramids, I guess I'll talk about that elsewhere. The warning about enemies spiritually you can deal with. The role in politics. Enochian Magick definitely connects to politics. And John Dee and Edward Kelly as, the British Empire and spying for one side and the other. Trying to make Christianity the universal religion, but, as I said, it goes beyond that, and perhaps a holy land beyond the Holy Land.